will be filmed and live streamed to YouTube. By your presence, you're deemed to have consented to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. When councillors and members of the public are speaking, please do not disclose any personal information of an individual, as this might infringe the rights of that individual and breach data protection rules. This is a formal town council meeting and members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak during public open sessions, but will not be permitted to speak at other times. So do we have any apologies for absence? None. Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest in any item on the agenda, please? Councillor Bond.
Item 10A is my planning application for work to be done on trees protected by tree preservation orders. I won't take part in that item.
Thank you. Councillor Alban.
Yep, I've a personal interest, non-pecuniary, in 10B.
Okay. Are there any other declarations of interest, please? Thank you. I don't have a lot of town mayor's announcements, but I think we continue to remember the people of both Ukrainian and Russian origin in our communities, and also those families locally who have taken in Ukrainian refugees. We keep the situation in Ukraine in our thoughts and prayers. A short update on the neighbourhood plan. Under the guidance of Dave Chetwin, the technical questions asked by the inspector have been responded to and we await further developments. So I'm now on to public open session. We don't have any members of the public in the chamber. I don't think we have any members of the public online, do we? No, okay, thank you. I'm gradually getting used to this. So we'll move on again. We have no invited speakers, so I'm on to members' questions. Councillor Strawn, Councillor Woodhead, Councillor Pullinger and Councillor Knight. Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think most members will be aware of the ongoing difficulties with our local GP surgeries. It's been emphasised yet again in the paper, and notice of some of it seems to be the clinical commissioning group, as well as the GP surgeries seem to be partly responsible for some of the issues. And as I don't believe that the council's had any satisfactory response from the local surgeries to inquiries, could the council please consider inviting the clinical commissioning group, our MP and the surgeries to meet with us, because this is getting out of control. I appreciate that the numbers of patients per doctor are incredibly high in Biggleswade, according to the statistics. Something's got to be done, and it's got to be taken beyond the purely local level. So could perhaps the council invite them, whether it's to a formal meeting or informal meeting, but something's got to happen. The situation can't be allowed to continue like this.
So you wanted the CCG, the MP and the surgeries. Well, we can try again. I suspect it would be better if it were an informal meeting. We're more likely to get answers that way. So I think it's probably worth a letter to see if we can get those people together.
Please, so I think the informal meeting will actually be more practical.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you. It's just a quick question around the, I guess, the opening hours, for want of a better phrase, of the toilets in the bus station. I understand they've been closed well before the last buses have left, as of the past few days, and I don't know how long it's been going on longer than that. So I just wondered if there was a reason why they've been being locked up early, or if there's been a change in policy around that, because it's been raised with me in the past day or so. Thanks.
Not that I'm aware, Councillor Woodhead, no.
I know for a fact that certainly today, and I think yesterday, they were closed well before 5 o'clock. So I just, if you can find out why that might be. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Pullinger.
Councillor Strawn's stolen my thunder, so I'm nothing to add.
Councillor Knight.
Thank you. 2 questions. Blimey. Apologies for that. 2 questions, if I may. So the first one, Council has considered a number of planning applications for number 19A High Street in recent months. I noticed the other day that building work within those premises is well advanced. It appears that a commercial kitchen has been installed, but my understanding is no planning permission has been granted. I did make the clerk aware of this last week. I don't know if the clerk's had an opportunity to pursue this yet with Central Beds Planning, but if you had a chance, could you share a brief update, please? And then my second question relates to CCTV. My understanding was that we had a plan for a CCTV survey to be undertaken by our supplier last week. I just wondered if you could confirm whether that took place, please. Thank you.
First thing I'm able to confirm is that we, the following day after receiving your mail, we took that up with Central Beds and we referred that to them. I'm just looking to Karim now to confirm whether or not we've had a response yet. We haven't, no. But be assured that we took on board your thoughts and we put our opinions across as strong as we possibly could. So could you update on the CCTV?
Thanks. I can confirm that the site visit did go ahead and now we're just awaiting to see the results from it. Yeah.
Any other members' questions? Councillor Alban.
Yeah, thank you. We received an email recently about Biggleswade Transport Interchange with some slides, one of which seems to suggest that the bus route will be routed through the Market Square where it's currently closed to traffic, which strikes me as an imposition on this council and also something I personally wouldn't like to see. So can we have an item come into the council to discuss that matter?
Yes, it was unfortunate that that was circulated to everybody because a small group of councillors after the joint committee had a meeting with senior Central Beds officer who is in charge of the transport interchange. He brought those slides forward as a possible suggestion. We've gone back on that and we've given an alternative view about what might happen with the buses for all the reasons that you've articulated, Councillor Alban. So he's now saying that as highways people, they will investigate whether what we've put forward is feasible because it's obviously got to be acceptable to the bus companies as well as to highways. So I don't think there's a need for another meeting until we hear back from highways on that. And then we can call another meeting of whoever's interested to come along and discuss the situation. We're some way from getting to the formal stage of TROs or anything like that yet. Councillor Foster.
I just wanted to ask a question in relation to the flag policy. Members will understand why I'm asking the question, given that Saturday was St George's Day and we didn't have the George flag on the Market Square. The question is, number one, why was that? And number two, where are we in relation to the flag policy, which presumably would indicate the which flags need to be flown at which point? And I guess it's following on from that, what can we do to make sure that it doesn't happen again?
Councillor Knight, would you like to say something?
Maybe I can add some details to that. So I looked at the flag policy, which did come before us in March, and at that time council suggested it's something we should review and come back to later in the year. The current flag policy is ambiguous around the St George's Day flag, and it says the council may fly it, not that it shall fly it. I think that's wrong, and I would like to see that changed. But at the moment, it seems to be discretionary. So I was corresponding with Isaac today and proposing that we bring a revised flag policy to the next TCM meeting in May.
I'm very pleased to hear it. And in terms of the ambiguity of the flying of the George flag, that needs resolving. Thank you. Anything
else from colleagues? Okay, so we'll move on to the minutes and recommendations of meetings. So we've got two lots of minutes in front of us. She says, and we'll find the right piece of paper in a moment. Lost my, oh, it's there. Sorry, it's all this back to back and you lose where you are. So I'm looking at the minutes of the meeting on the 12th of April. So I'm going through them for accuracy. Page 4 of the papers, page 1 of the minutes. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. With no indications, may I sign them as a correct record, please? Thank you. So then we have the minutes of the annual assembly, which took place last week. So accuracy, page 13. Page 14. May I sign those? Thank you.
Order, Madam Mayor. Technically, isn't the annual assembly a meeting of the town, not of the council, and therefore would not be minutes of the council meeting, or have I missed something there? Because I don't think we've had them approved immediately after the annual assembly in previous years. I may be missing something, but that's I seem to recollect that in the past.
So I think that's down to me that's used the wrong word, because I think these are like committee minutes. They're coming to us so that we've got a record of them without waiting a year. So I take back what I said about approving.
That makes perfect sense.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay. I'm going back now to matters arising. So anything on page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, or page 12. So no matters arising. So I'm now moving on to items for consideration. And the first item is an application for a Public Works Loan Board loan. So I'd like to ask the town clerk to explain the paper that's in front of us, please.
Okay, so if we perhaps put our minds back to the original conversation in regard to the precept some time ago now, one of the items for debate at the time was how we can best invest in our services going forward and how we might draw down some revenue and capital monies to allow us to do that. And we put forward to council a variety of growth needs going forward and had a conversation about how we might best to afford to support this going forward. Items 1 to 9 are an assessment that we did at the time of potential costs going forward over the next 5 years. If I recall the conversation correctly, there was general support amongst members towards the 22-23 level of drawdown. And there was an expectation that as the years go by and we reflect on our growth requirements, which will change, that we may, and I do stress that, may draw down monies over the next 4 years going forward. These are emerging growth requirements, so they will change. I obviously need to make sure that we have a successful application when we apply to DCLG. I want to put us in the best possible place. Over the last few weeks, DCLG have changed their criteria associated with drawing down PWRB loan. And they have specified some wording that they would like town councils to use when they make a resolution around potentially drawing down a loan. This wording has been given to me and I've been encouraged to use this in the paper that I've got today. What we're hoping to debate today is to clarify that at least in year 1, there's a clear sense of amounts of monies that we will potentially draw down. and it gives an overall sense of cost associated with that. It may be going forward, and it may be that members might have some preference associated with this, that the affordability associated with this will be a combination perhaps of the precept, ongoing cost reductions and efficiencies, ongoing reviews of contracts, etc., 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 a continual zero-based reflection on what we can afford as a council going forward. As we know, that the figures are substantial, but I want to try and put us in the best possible place to allow us to be successful in our application. So effectively, we engage with our local county association. We tick the box in regard to the right resolution. We ensure that we can afford the levels of repayment potentially going forward. And just to stress, this is something, what I don't want members to do now is to sense that we are giving a blank check towards a large amounts of money that will be drawn down and basically ticking the box now. What we're saying is that in year one, that we potentially will look to draw down in the region of £400,000, and that on a regular basis, we will reflect on our ongoing loan requirements. One of the other things I'm in the process of doing is to get some nice, clean comms, convincing comms, that will then be shared with our broad community, and there'll be a survey monkey that people are encouraged to fill in. We will have regular adverts going out in the Biggleswade Bulletin and also on social media to encourage as large a number of our residents to contribute towards this debate in the hope that we can have a positive outcome. DCLG will definitely be looking towards a significant supportive vote from our population. I also recognise at the moment that this paper in itself is not a comms paper. It doesn't give sufficient information that we would want to share with our broad community to give them an absolute sense about our sense of direction. But I would hope that I have your support connected to this.
Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you. So thank you for the report. A few comments I'd like to make first of all. So one is...
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Knight. Firstly, in respect of the table that's on page 15. So while I would acknowledge that that is what was put forward as part of the formal papers in terms of the precept setting, I think there were definitely conversations had both at FNGP and at council and subsequently that the exact makeup of that 425,000 may not exactly reflect what is in that table, and there will be adjustments to that, but it wouldn't go beyond that 425,000 within year one, and it would be for whatever growth requirements the council agrees to fund through that loan. The other point I'd like to make is I find the actual recommendation and the wording of the resolution quite confusing. I accept that it's the wording that's been recommended and therefore we need to adopt that, but I think, and you've provided some clarity over that. There's a couple of minor amendments I'd like to make to the actual wording of that, if possible, and then add some additional words to the end to clarify some of my thoughts a bit more. So the amendments are really just around the percentages to make sure that they marry up accurately. So in the paragraph under BTC will be increasing the council tax precept for the purpose of the loan. The 5% should read 4.4%. And then in the bottom paragraph where it says 1%, that was 0.75%. And then the 22,000 is 1.5%. And it should have 1.5%, which is the equivalent of an additional 22,000, just to be consistent across. I think one thing I will add, not as part of the resolution, is that that 0.75%, the 11,000 for the 6 months, is actually already included in the budget for this year. It isn't additional to what is already in the precept that was agreed previously. And then the wording I would like to add to the bottom is, whilst these, and you've talked to this already, most of it. So whilst these intentions regarding the precept are resolved, every effort will be made to avoid actual increases to the precepts as a result of these loans through the ongoing cost and efficiency savings programme, revenue and income optimisation, and through use of funds allocated in 22-23 for one-off revenue projects. Further, we will not draw down more than £425,910 without a further resolution of council.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think that, thank you very much, Councillor Pullinger, for those helpful comments. And I would, as an officer, I would fully support the amendment that you've put forward and the clarity that you've given. It's not just about a precept supporting the borrowing. It's about making sure that we are a prudent, financially prudent council that supports ourselves going forward. So, yeah.
So I propose formally those amendments to the recommendation put forward.
Could you just explain for my benefit why the changes in percentages?
Just for accuracy, really, because 4.4 doesn't round to 5. It's just, it's really rounding errors more than anything, and for consistency through.
Okay. Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what Councillor Pullinger makes perfect sense, but what I am a bit confused about is that we've got a recommendation and we've got 2 resolutions to borrow, which to my mind means that we could be borrowing in excess of 1.5 million with the way that it's laid out. Now, I don't think that is actually the intention of the resolution, but that's how it could be read. And I think some bit of tidying up there needs to be dealt with to avoid the ambiguity, because just reading it, you read the 2 together and it looks as though we've got 2 separate resolutions. I think it should be saying that we're resolving to seek the approval for the 1.1. However, the intention is that we should only draw down the 425, but I think that does need clearing up, because certainly when I read it, it could be read in different ways.
Yeah, I read it in exactly the same way. The only reason I didn't propose to modify that is because of the recommendation of the clerk that is the wording that has been asked to be used. I think if we could in some way put something in there to clarify that the maximum drawdown over 5 years is the 1.1 million. So where I've, in my last sentence, I put further, we will not draw down more than 425,000 without a further resolution of council, and the total amount of the loan will not exceed 1.106 million.
Does that make sense for you, Councillor Strawn?
It does. I was just thinking that perhaps it should be more on the basis, and I appreciate this is the wording that's been put forward, but I don't think the advice given to the clerk has been particularly clear in that respect. I think it is, and perhaps it is resolved to seek the approval to take out of the first year's, out of the total loan in the first year, the sum of, but in view of the advice that the clerk's been given, I'm a little, it just doesn't look right or feel right, and it could be taken. I hope Councillor Pullinger's amendment would actually cover that, but it's not a good recommendation to our clerk as to how it should be presented.
If I may just come back. So, I mean, I completely agree with you. I'm not happy myself really with the wording of that, but as the clerk has said and you stated, that is the wording as advised to allow the loan application to go through, which is why I'm reluctant to change the format of that part of the wording and trying to capture it all in that final paragraph.
In that respect, if I may I suggest that we add to the part of our resolution, for the sake of absolute clarity, following on your notes, that this is the intention, so that it make it quite clear that the total loan being applied for is the 1.1 million,
which I thought
and the 425, but provided that's included in your addendum, I'm quite happy with that. I'd happily second a motion on that basis.
Okay, thank you. I think that is included in
Yeah.
what Councillor Pullinger was saying. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Foster, sorry.
Yeah, if we're to vote on this tonight, I would like to see a redraft of this so that we actually have what we're going to vote on. I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on something where there's been changes made. I would like to see it. If providing we have time to do this, I'd like to see it carried forward to the next meeting.
The more we delay, the less likely we're going to be able to do things this financial year. I don't know whether there's any possibility of Councillor Pullinger's sentences being put
Type
into
them out and
writing.
email to someone to
If
print out.
I
if you wish.
defer this to the end of the agenda, can we possibly get Councillor Pullinger's wording on paper so that councillors can see exactly what they're voting for? Is that possible, please? Can you send that?
I'll email it to you in a few minutes, Sean.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Mark Foster, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, at the risk of doing my usual, provide me with more information so that I don't have to ask too many questions. I think this report doesn't necessarily meet my criteria of not having to ask questions. I think the fact that the recommendation is at best ambiguous or unclear. I think if we've got a recommendation that is being the wording that's required, at least we could have had within the report a clearer explanation and why the wording is that, so that we're not having to ask the clerk with respect to Peter. So we're not having to ask you. It's there. The reason for the wording is this. And I'm conscious that I'm doing this again, but I just want to make sure that we are clear so that it's not just for our benefit, but the residents looking at this, that they won't have the benefit of the conversation that we're having. So
well, they'll see the minute, which will reflect what we've been asking about. I mean, you're asking for perfection, and I don't know whether we'll ever get to perfection in this council.
Can I come back on that?
Just
Can I come back?
Yeah.
With respect, I'm not asking for perfection. What I'm asking for is enough information to be able to make a proper decision. So if the clerk is able to do that going forward, that would be really helpful. This doesn't do that for me, hence the reason for having to have explanations from Councillor Pullinger.
Okay. Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Foster. I'm afraid I disagree with you. So if you look on the page, top of page 16, it tells you that members are requested to adopt the specific wording of the resolution so as to facilitate the PWLB application. The wording is taken from the application criteria. These are not my words. These are DCLG words. And I apologize if they're confusing or in any way unclear, but they are what they are. And I'm trying to do this to make sure that all of you have a successful application to DCLG and fulfill the requirements we talked about at precept.
Councillor Fage and then Councillor Knight.
So, thank you. This is starting to make more sense, and I appreciate it's a huge piece of work and hard to get one's head round. I know I've struggled a bit. On the resolution to borrow, we're looking at 1.1 million, just over, which would amount to 62,000 per year for what, 25 years. But so there's a one-off increase in the precept to facilitate that 62,000, but as Councillor Pullinger has said, it could come from other means. Fine. What is puzzling me a little bit is when I multiply 62,000 by 25, which is the lifetime of the loan, I get a number which is less than $1 million. I might just do it now on my phone actually, but I get a number which is less than $1 million, and I don't know whether it's my miscalculation or whether I get 932,760. Maybe I put a number in wrong.
What did you multiply?
I multiplied 62184 times 25. 62184 times 25. No, yes, right. It's quite a lot more than 1 million. Obviously, I put a number in wrong. I defer to somebody else to say something of any use. Just keeping everybody on their toes, checking that we're doing our calculations. All right.
Never trust a banker.
Councillor Knight.
I don't work for a bank.
Order. Councillor Knight.
So I just wanted to make a point in relation to figure one, really. So I support the principle of a loan, providing that we're using it for the right things. And I think council has already discussed this before, and I think this table doesn't necessarily reflect some of the earlier conversations. So in particular, I don't believe this council supports spending £25,000 on the chamber. And I certainly wouldn't be looking to support that. I don't think that's the intent, is it? And I think it's just that this table doesn't necessarily reflect our current thinking. It hasn't necessarily been updated. And I think the same for some of the other line items on here, like software upgrades. I really don't think we should be taking out a loan to pay for software over 15 years, because software typically doesn't have a 15-year life. So there are a few areas on here where I just wanted to make sure that was on the record already. That's all. Thank you.
Right, I'm going to stop the debate at this point and wait until we've got the wording that Councillor Pullinger is suggesting. So I'm going to move on to statement of community involvement. And councillors have had a chance to look at the consultation from Central Bedfordshire. Do we wish to respond as a council? Do we wish to respond individually? Your views, please. Councillor Fage.
Recommend we give no response to this. I've had a look. It's only, I don't think there's anything in there that's very controversial.
So that's a recommendation not to respond as a council. Are we content with that? Yes. Okay, thank you. So then if I could ask Mr. Hosseini to come to the table and just talk about meeting dates. And I know that a couple of members want to change the committee dates. So if you could explain the issues, because most of these dates have already been agreed by council and they're in everybody's diaries. So we just need to see what the changes are.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Essentially, so yeah, the summary of meeting dates for 2022 to 2023 are included in this pack. Unfortunately, it's not entirely accurate, because what we're suggesting is to include another council meeting for the 23rd of May 2023, which would sit 14 days after the annual statutory council in 2023. Additionally, there should be a personnel committee penned in for the 1st of November 2022, and a council meeting for the 8th of November 2022 as well. Also, those are the additions which need adding in.
And I think Councillor Knight, you wanted to make a change.
Yes, so I'd like to propose, this list looks good. I would like to propose that the town centre management meeting proposed for the 15th of November, if that could move to the 18th of October instead, which appears to be free. The rationale is that's still 3 months after the July meeting, but more importantly, that meeting is often a meeting where we need to talk about Christmas plans. And I think if we have that meeting as late as the 15th of November, that's cutting it rather fine. So taking advantage of that 18th of October gap seemed a good idea.
Thank you. And Councillor Pullinger.
Yeah, I'd like to move the meeting on the 21st of June to the 5th of July. Two main reasons. One is that we have a lot of consecutive meetings running up to that, and that would break them up slightly. But also there's a lot of reports required from officers for that meeting, and just to give them a little bit more time to prepare. 5th of July, yeah.
Councillor Fage.
Something we've discussed in the past is around having perhaps only one meeting in August to give our staff a little bit of a break when people are off for summer holidays, for example. I think originally we did have it as the 16th of August. Now we seem to have one on the 9th and one on the 23rd. I don't know what colleagues' appetite is towards going back to just one in August, but I just thought I'd raise that.
Well, I honestly feel that we probably do need two meetings. We're not having committee meetings, but with planning applications, possibilities, and you don't know what's coming forward, I'd be reluctant to just have one meeting with long gaps between. But Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I notice we've got a meeting on the 12th of July for council at 2:30, according to the schedule that I've got in front of me. Is there something I should know about on that day that makes it important that we give up an afternoon's work? Or should I retire then?
I think that's meant to be joint committee, is it not?
It
Is that the
also
right
is,
date for joint committee? Has anybody got their diary?
yeah, well,
handy?
joint committee is also down as a 7 o'clock on the 14th of July, so perhaps we might correct that as well.
Yeah, I think they've gone the wrong way around. I noticed it earlier. I meant to bring it up.
Okay. Right, so at the moment, we've got a few changes. So we've got the 21st of June F&GP meeting moving to the 5th of July. We've got the 12th and 14th of July to be changed because they should be the opposite way around, joint committee and council. We've got a personnel meeting on the 1st of November and council on the 8th of November. And we've got an extra council meeting on the 23rd of May. So there'll be the annual statutory immediately after next year's election, and then the first full council meeting on 23rd of May.
TCM.
Oh, sorry, TCM. Which one was that? Tell me again. Thank you. Yeah, I'd missed that on there. So are people comfortable with those meeting dates? Yes. So perhaps we can have a definitive calendar now from next month onwards. Thank you very much.
Quick one.
Councillor
Yeah,
Page?
could I just request that it is, that when this list is finalised, that we could just send it to all members? I don't need a calendar invite necessarily. Don't waste time doing that, but just the final list would be really helpful. Thanks.
It's actually, when we get a whole spate of calendar invites, I tend to ignore them, which probably isn't a good idea, but I put everything in the diary myself so that I know what's going on. Okay, I'm moving on to planning applications. And the first is Shortmead House works to trees protected by a TPO. Any comments, colleagues? Note it? Yeah. And then 17 Banks Road, vehicular access to rear of dwelling and double carport. Any comments, please?
Could I move no objection, but subject to consultation with residents in Newtown Court? Because I mean, this is bizarre, really, to have if colleagues have looked at it. I can't initially see a problem with it, but it's basically cars going in through the back garden via a road that the house is not on, and I don't want parking spaces to be lost round there. So considerable consultation with Newtown Court, but other than that, move no objection, subject to that consultation.
Is there a seconder for that? Yes, okay. So no objection as long as there's due consultation with the residents in Newtown Court. Are we happy with that? Yeah, okay, thank you. And then Fairfield Cottage, Fairfield Road, new garage and store to replace existing outbuildings and garages. Any comments, please?
Subject to neighbours.
Subject to neighbours? Not that there are many very close. Okay. And then 1A Havelock Road, conversion from A1 to C3 to create a flat with extension to the front and reduction to roof height. Any comments? Councillor Fage?
Move no objection, subject to neighbours. It looks like they've done their best to heed the advice of various officers at Central Beds, and I can't really see a problem with this application. What's currently there is a bit of an eyesore for the street, so make good use of it.
Okay, are we happy with that? No objection, subject to neighbours? Okay, thank you. And then we have a report of planning outcomes. So are there any questions or comments on that, Councillor Bond?
If it's small enough a thing stand, can it not at least be presented in landscape rather than portrait? It's unreadable.
It's a request for the report to be in landscape so that it's more easily readable. It would make more sense. I did circle Biggleswade Road, land east of. I'm not quite sure what that means. I think it means Baden-Powell Way. Anyway, any comments on any of these outcomes so far?
Let's note it.
Oh, and there's another one where it says Orchard Close. I think it's Orchard Chase. So we just need to get those accurately done. Okay, items for information. Some letters received thanking us for grants. Are we happy to note that?
Yeah.
And we're just getting the wording. So you need to look at the amended wording on one side of the sheet, please. And you've got Councillor Pullinger's addendum on the bottom. So Councillor Pullinger, are you happy with that? Councillor North.
Thank you. Could we just get a repeat of why we have to have two resolutions? One for 1.1 million and one for 400,000, which don't add up to 1.5 million, apparently.
Well, as much clarity as I can give you, the wording of those resolutions is as per the DCRG website, which is what I was asked specifically to include in this, to ensure that we had a better chance of successful resolution. It's as simple as that, I'm afraid. It's not my wording.
But the 1.1 is the total, and the 400,000 is year one.
It's just effectively highlighting what we'll be drawing down in year one. It's not the two figures added together.
I know, yes, I realise that's why I'm asking why we have to have the two. But anyway, all right.
That's not my wording.
The way it's got to be done. Okay.
Colleagues are still looking at this. It's really the addendum and checking the percentages further up the report. Councillor Pullinger says he's content with it, and I think Councillor Strawn, are you happy still to second it?
Yes, I still think it's illogical what they were being advised to do, but I think this just clarifies that this is the total that we are actually applying for.
Yeah, okay. So are we content to take a vote on this now, please? Yeah. So all those in favour of the resolution to borrow the amended wording version, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you for the work to get that done. That's much appreciated. Thank you. Right, I'm on to public open session. Does any member of the public wish to speak? And we've got one member of the public online. If he wishes to speak, will he put his electronic hand up, please? Okay, I'm getting no indication, so I'm going to move on. And since we have no exempt items, I'm going to declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much, colleagues.